Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Aisha. Aisha, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am also known as Miss Aisha, Miss Owens, formerly Miss uh, middle name Kimberly. So I just my name I'm the founder of the Academic Convenience Store. And so it started out, I actually started thinking of the idea of this probably back in 2016. Um, and it was called Inspiring Minds, actually, Inspiring Minds 711. It was the age my kids, both of my sons were 7 and 11 at the time, and Inspiring Minds was taken on the Gmail. And so I was like, oh no, how am I gonna, so I was like, oh, my kids are 7 and 11. So I just put 7 and 11 in there. And that's been that was the start of my DBA with LA County. As an educator, we don't get a lot of training on business. I mean, we're very, your courses in education, depending on the route that you go, are very specific. And you're kind of pigeon cornered into what you can do with that. And so I have a background in psychology. I have my bachelor's in psychology from a very technical school. Shout out to Cal Poly Pomona. I spent 5 years there. They're known. There's two campuses: Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I'm from California, born and raised. By way of my mother's side of the family, my grandmother was born in Galveston, Texas, and on my dad's side of the family, um, was my dad was born in Detroit, Michigan. And so I was raised in a blended family. My parents remarried when I was very young. And so I was raised with a stepfather who was a former Air Force vet and firefighter, and then took us into the music industry. So we were I grew up in the music industry a bit as well. And so, and then my dad, and my stepmother was a former attorney and judge here in California. And so, and my dad was very business savvy. I learned, and so I'm pretty much a mixture of kind of all of that at 7-Eleven on the time right now as I'm talking about here on the West Coast. But I mention all that to say just a little bit of a mix of who I am as a person and where that leads me as far as an educator. I did not, when I graduated high school, class of 96, shout out. And I I went straight into college, and I got there and did not quite know exactly what direction I wanted to go into. I was at a very you know, uh engineering based school, math and science based school, what they were known for. But I was like, I struggle with math so much that I couldn't see myself spending another 4 or 5 years learning something in math that required a lot of math. However, the school required a high level of math just to get into the school. So I had to have at least algebra 2. That was a struggle for me. I was tested into when I got to ninth grade. At that time, you had to be, get your little placement test. They placed me into algebra 1. I was considered a remedial student, I guess, where I did basically ninth grade was half of the algebra 1. I went to summer school at ninth grade, after ninth grade. Then 10th grade became out the second half of the book. Then 11th grade hits and it's geometry. I have to I barely passed with a D. I got a D. Then I went to summer school for geometry to get my, because you have to graduate with your diploma. You have to have at least geometry, to get your high school diploma. Then I got to, then I passed that summer school. Then I hear I'm in the 12th grade. So I meet the qualifications to graduate with my high school diploma, but now I've got accepted to get into college with algebra 2. So I had to take algebra 2 my 12th grade year, and I had to pass because now where am I? It's 12th grade. So, I'm going so I take that, I'm in my algebra 2 class. She happened to be my same geometry teacher. And I get in that class and I'm like, I had to convert. One of the assignments was she would give us extra credit. And my extra credit was take a picture and make an algebraic equation, and a parabola had the curve and all this stuff, like the shape of this side of the picture had to be an equation. The other side was an equation and all this stuff. And she said, if you can learn this and get through this class, this is the stuff you need to be a computer scientist or a computer engineer, or you could design video games. And I'm thinking, I'm just trying to get out of, I'm just trying to pass. I'm not even, okay, that's great for those who are that deep into this, but I'm just trying to pass this class. And I got accepted to Cal Poly Pomona. And if I don't pass Algebra 2, I can't get in. I mean, it's dependent upon this class. And so she liked my extra credit. She said I did all my homework on time and everything, but I was not doing well on those exams, on the tests and quizzes, and some of those teachers, they weigh it, your quizzes and tests are 60% of your grade and all this stuff. So I get to the end of that class, that 12th grade year, and the lady comes to me, she says, Aisha, I had you for geometry. I see your efforts here. You do all the extra credit, do all the homework, you come to every class, like I wasn't ditching the class or nothing like that, blah, blah, blah. You're on the cheerleading team, you're active at the school, and I see that you're accepted to Cal Poly Pomona. I say, yes. She goes, right now you got a 68 about a D, and they're still sticking on a D. And she says, you know what? All of your effort, you got a C in my class. You're gonna go to Cal Poly. Yeah, you got a C. You're getting a C. So, that because I had already got in under 3.5 GPA, but I was accepted under the GPA model that year at Cal Poly. So my second semester had to really, it didn't show, it was struggling, girl. I was catching 2 buses to get to school, high school, because my parents had moved, and I didn't want to go to the school where we were at. I tried it for summer school, but the culture of the school, the location, I just knew that was not me. And my brother my brother were similar, close in age. We were just like, no, let's go back to our high school. We told our parents we'll catch 2 buses. They were a little bit of I don't know, how do you say it? Not that we were like low, we were like little middle class, family, I guess, struggling middle class Black family in California, but this area,
the average.
Yeah, I mean, we were in an area of more Caucasians and more wealthy people. So, long story short, how we ended up moving over there. But I tried that school out for the summer, and I just felt like I didn't fit in that well. And I didn't want to go there for my 12th grade year. My mom was like, well, it's close. You can call, blah, blah, blah. I was like, for the summer, I just felt like, let me get back where I've been at since 9th grade. Some of these folks in middle school. My brother, when we moved over there, he got chased. He went to walk down to Jack in the Box. He said he got chased by 2 white boys. And so, and I was like, what? He said he outran them and jumped over a wall. And I was like, why are you getting chased? What you're here doing? Like, we were literally on the other side of town. You know what I'm saying? So we was like, nah, me and him he was on a football team. I was on cheerleading. I was in show choir. We just took 2 buses to get to school. So that being said, to finish out our high school years. And so, that being said, I at Cal Poly 5 years, I did with that struggle, with that challenge of getting in and the culture of that type of school, they call them PWIs, predominantly white institutions. It was close to the house that we moved to, and my mother didn't want me really out of the state, I guess, and like going to like the HBCUs. And she was saying she was finding out girls are going down there now. They're not coming back with children. They're coming back with children and not their degrees, or you know what I mean? So my mom was like, she was on a helicopter. She was a helicopter mom. And so I was like, oh, okay.
She said not today.
Right, that part. So I was like, so I got into a local, California State school. And I guess that she felt comfortable. Like I keep real behind her. So anyway, I was able to do the college experience. I did 5 years at Cal Poly Pomona, and man, that math still was the math. And as we're, this is Homeschool Your Child podcast, and that math still was kicking me in the butt at that school. I mean, they were literally kicking people out because now you got now you're here. Now you're not at the JC, you're not at the community college, you're at California State Polytechnic University. Okay, we all about this engineering up here. Apparently, I'm realizing that once I get in there, because I see all the options of degrees. I'm like, but I I find out later these schools have to have their stake in the ground, you know, their stake in the sand here. So that's one of theirs. And so they required us, we were on the quarter system back then, meaning 10 weeks, fall, winter, spring, 10 weeks to knock it out. They required that if you had if you don't pass, I was placed again. So you're tested again. And entry exam, where's your math and English language arts? My math is then at the bottom again. I'm like, all this to get into school, I'm at the bottom of the math chain. They said, if you do not, here's your options. You pass these 4, it was math, because I tested entry level very low. Remedial, we'll say remedial again. Math 9, math, now some folks, it was math 9, math 10, math 11, math 12. You don't pass those 4 entry level, no credit, by the way, courses.
Oh, that's wild.
You're out of here. You're out of here. You're out. Go back to the JC and maybe come back. So, right. And they didn't care if you was there for basket weaving or you wanted to, is that a theater arts? They had theater arts there. There was drama club and all those type of majors at that school. But if that math, you know, and some folks tested in maybe math 11, maybe math 12, maybe you just had to do one remedial class. I tested it in math 9. Okay. So I have basically, that's 4 quarters. And not only that, if you do not pass, you get one chance to miss one. So I got through and they offer tutoring and support, free tutoring and all of that. Okay. But you gotta, if you don't, math 9 I passed, math 10 I passed, math 11 I passed. I get to math 12. Now they give you, out of that 4 cycle, you get one shot. Like I say, you didn't pass one of those, you get one more chance to take it again. And if that second time you don't, in that math, in that cycle of those 4 courses, then you're out, you know. So I got into math, I passed math 9, 10, 11. I get to math 12. Now, mind you, I went to Summer Bridge before I got into Cal Poly. So it was a program they had for, they called this underrepresented students, which is basically your African American, Latino. I mean, they didn't, I don't know, but they just called us underrepresented students. So quite a few African American students that got into Cal Poly, they gave us a chance to live on the campus for 4 weeks, live the dorm life. And even in Summer Bridge, they had tutors and stuff in there for us for the math, because we had to take courses in the Summer Bridge, math and English. And they had us in some other little courses. You get to meet people, you know, live a little bit of the dorm life, because it's expensive. And I'm on financial aid as it is. And so I couldn't really afford the dorm life like that. So it was a great opportunity for us. So here so Summer Bridge is over. You're back. I'm living home now, as a what do you call it? Off-campus student, not recruiter. I forget what they call, you know, off-campus student. I forgot the term for that. But anyways, I get to math 12, I don't pass. I use my one chance and I take it again. I'm in the front with my hand up, like the lady I have a friend, we were in the same boat, and she was also a psychology major. We were in the same math 9, math 10, math 11 boat. She said, Aisha, that teacher does not like you. I said, she goes, every time you raise your hand, she like huffs and puffs. I said, girl, I do not care. This is my second time in this math 12. You know, at this point, I'm gonna be your bugaboo. You know, you know, like, you know, so. And then that teacher, I said, I was struggling with the word problems. She said, come to my office hours. And I went to her office hours, and she goes, you want to pass? Come to my office hours. I go to her office hour. I said, she sits me in there. She goes, every time you see this word, this is how you're going to convert that information to mathematics, to the algebraic operation. Every time you see this, convert that. I think that's where your missteps are. So I sat with that lady. I get to my final exam. At that time, it wasn't, you know, I had to wait to you'd either call for your score, or you wait till they send a piece of paper in the mail, you know. And when they let you know the grades are posted, I was out with my mom's house. I said, hold on, Mom, I'm calling and I had to use a house phone at that time. And I'm like listening for my grade, and I heard that I passed. I think it was a C. I just screamed and yelled and like, yeah. I was like, what? I told her, I said, Mom, if I didn't pass that class, I was going to be getting kicked out of Cal Poly.
Mm.
So anyway, so that being said, by the time I got to my major, I think I just picked anything, liberal studies. It was very boring, like just writing a bunch of paper. It was a lot of interesting information, but I'm like, how am I gonna get a job with this? What kind of job get with this? And number two, you know what I'm saying? After all of this, shoot, like I get out here and make some money at this point. So what kind of job was I gonna get with this? Because mind you, I worked in high school at McDonald's and movie theater, AMC movie theater, and
Mm.
camps and stuff. So I was like, wait a minute. Now all this it made me do except get up in the school and stay in the school. The liberal studies department, I think it routes you to become a teacher
Oh,
or give you the
oh,
credential.
really?
Yeah. And I was just like, not, not teaching, So I said, I took a psychology class and it was interesting. It was like, it was science based, but it wasn't like deep science. And I was going through some stuff and I never took a psychology class. And I'm like, I was heavily stressed out. We're taking 2 buses and all that to college and high school and all that, cheerleading in show choir and working at McDonald's and so I dealt with a level of stress. And so I said, wow, this was interesting because they were talking about the mind of criminals and people that get out here and why do they what's those kind of a serial killer and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like, well, they're like digging into the mind of these people, and some of them they would show us videos. They'd be in prison, but they're talking about their mind behind why they did what they did. Their childhood may have been something happened in their childhood. They triggered some crazy. So I'm going like, man. So it was interesting. So I went to my advisors and changed my major my 3rd year in college, and now your major, you gotta take your GEs. I'm out of those 4 remedial classes, but now I gotta take the stats, the general ed requirements. Now I done took stats for the education, the liberal studies department. I done took stats for the regular GE class. Now psychology got their own stats class for the psychology department. So I was getting B's in my stats class. I was like, okay. And mind you, some of the teachers, I'm like, I can understand one stats teacher, his accent was so heavy and turban on his head. I'm going, and there be some people that bring their recorder. I said, this man, I can't really understand him, but he would try to explain everything to you, and I passed his class and stuff, but and so therefore my major got changed. Now I'm writing papers on, it's the science of it all. We got to look at the 0.5. I had to, in a class where we're with the lab, literally with some rats and like try to train a rat how to eat from a pebble and how they used to study these animals. And then it got real deep how they would use people and use Black people to some of these, that's you know what I mean? That's that. Now they didn't give us no class on that, but we had in researching and all that, you find this stuff out as you're taking your courses. And so then I had to come up with my own psychology philosophy. And so by the time I finished that, I was like, man, I want to work in a hospital. I want to really be in the hospital settings and, like the hardcore. I mean, you got to learn about the central nervous system. You got to learn how the brain is working. You got to learn this is to meet something. Okay, now this is making sense. Wow, this math I had to do, right? So, while I was in college, I worked in a career center. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm working as a mentor, advisor for new incoming freshmen. And I'm working a job off the campus somewhere. I think at the grocery store. I still kept my off-campus job and I'm carrying a full load. And I'm doing dance classes and, things like that. So, what do I do with this now that I graduate? Well, degree in psychology. Yeah, you're working at entry-level jobs that pay about $12 an hour, $13 an hour. I'm like, oh. So I kept my job. I got a job at Bank of America before graduating in the call center. That collection job, it was part-time and you got benefits. So after I graduated, I stayed with Bank of America for a while. and actually 5 years, and did different departments in there full time. As life goes on, ended up, having my first baby. I was pregnant, got married, and got a chance to finally use my psychology degree as a children and family social worker after the bank was laying people off. It was after 9/11, while I was at Cal Poly my last year, I traveled to London. I did the student abroad program. I was there for 3 months. Got a chance to travel to Europe and Spain, through Europe, Spain and London and Italy and France. And so when I came back, I had one more semester to graduate. So given that life experience, what do you have to, it's California, it's life now. I'm in my mid-20s now, I'm about 23, 24. A lot of our people are friends and stuff we partying with, and frat parties and clubs and stuff. They graduated out working. Some people moved back to either their home country or, especially as it relates to a lot of our African students, they were working under the engineers, working under the table, things like that. And so we just life is life. And at this point, you gotta survive. Your parents are looking at you like you 24, girl, you 25. You can pay some bills around here. You know what I mean? So I had been living away from my parents by that point. By probably my second year in college. And it's like a fork in the road per se, but now I'm having a baby. This job, I've been at Bank of America for 5 years, and it's downsizing, it's closing. I'm in the consumer risk operations department now. I learned a lot how to asset remarketing department, and trying to see, like they knew I had a degree, but it was like the department was closing, and I was looking for other positions at Bank of America, corporate Bank of America, and I got an opportunity when I was pregnant with my now 18-year-old. My first baby was stillborn. So I ended up staying at the bank. We had to have a funeral for him, and ended up getting married, and then got pregnant with my my now 18-year-old. By this point, I get an offer with Children and Family Services. So I worked as a social worker up until my baby was. So I got a chance to use my degree, the psychology degree comes into play, and I'm working as a social worker here in Los Angeles, LA County. I have a newborn myself now. And I'm saying, okay, do I go back to school and get my licensed clinical social work degree? Because now my brain is like, I'm still thinking of that science. I'm still thinking of that hardcore. I'm still thinking of, I got to work in a hospital. I got to do something with something like that. Working as a children's social worker, I'm seeing the insides of what's happening with the LCSWs, people that have an MSW. As a county worker, I'm working with the courts. We're seeing a variety of stuff happening here. And my ex-husband, my former husband at the time, he said, he was born and raised in LA. And it was just like, in my heart, what I'm seeing happening with our youth, and particularly African-American families, there was a huge gap in education. And I'm having an 11th grader on my caseload, and she's running around in trouble. We're trying to find a placement for her, looking at the family dynamic. And I'm going like, and her social worker, one of her MSW, because they have outside counselors that the county partners with, programs and stuff. And I'm getting a letter that I got to send to the judge regarding this case, and I have to call the MSW. Okay, ma'am, why are you putting on this letter I have to put to the judge A, B, C, and D on this child? If I send this to the courts, they're going to say they may detain this child, or they may say she's not in a safe environment. Now we've got to find her a new place. That girl's with her sisters. That girl's with her auntie. Like I don't need a detainment of this 11th grader on my caseload. So they go back and they change because the county's like, they work for us at the end of the day. So they got to go back and change their little letters. So I'm going like, I don't think I want to do MSW. You know what I'm saying? Go back for the MSW. I'm looking at it from the inside, like, what are y'all out here doing? And I'm like, y'all just making, is it just a salary of money for you? Or are you really assessing, trying to help these kids and these families? You're on the therapy side of things. Like, I'm telling them what's like, and I'm not even MSW at this time. Now, some of those social workers, the county was paying you to get your LCSW and stuff like that, because the turnover rate at that level was high. They losing social workers. Our caseloads, we go in at 23. When I was trained, it was family reunification. We're working on only 23 on the caseload. Because mind you, if I have 23 children on my
That's
case,
23 families.
that's 23 families. You see what I'm saying? That's the mother, the father, if auntie, uncles, or whoever is helping to raise the child or dealing with their foster homes or whatnot. And so that was accounted out. But when I got in there, my first year, my second year, I'm about to be my third, here my case about 38. And they knowing it's not, they knowing it's beyond the
Oh,
threshold.
wow.
I would
Yeah.
go to court. I've got judges says, ma'am, how many cases you have? I said, Judge, I'm on 38 cases right now. She goes, you have too many. That was the first judge that said, you have too many clients on your case. So I was in the courtroom like, because I'm rushing to get my report, my documents, my court report to the dang on children's court because we're running behind. We got lawyers 7 days. It's all the law stuff. You gotta notify people in 7 days. So I'm looking at this like the stress level.
No,
I
this
was,
too much.
and not
It's
only
too
that, I'm
much.
seeing the cycle. It's like a rat on a wheel. It's like these families ain't. Let's close these cases. Go home. You got your daughter now. No, you guys 6 more months to maintain family maintenance at the time and have a nice life and do the best y'all can. You know what I'm saying? And do the
Yeah.
best y'all can and get some of these resources and don't spank, don't roughhouse the kids and kids don't talk crazy to your parents and everybody do their part, so
Mhm.
it's like but we weren't closing the cases. It was like,
Mm.
is this done on purpose? You know,
Mm.
um, I'm going like, okay. So that being said, ma'am, I had to make a decision and a fork in the road. I ended up going back to school as my family, my mother, she was working out of school at the time, and she said, she was working as what was my mom doing at the school? She was like for 10 or 12 years in this other smaller school district. And she's a hairstylist and does other things. But anyway, she said, why don't you go back? I said, Mom, what if I go back to school and get my teaching credential? And she goes, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. She goes, you're a mom now. You have the
Mhm.
summers and the weekends. You school's out at 2:33. And I said, yeah, but as a social worker, I go to the schools a lot. I don't want to be in the room with all them kids all the
Mhm.
time. She said, yeah, but think about the holidays. Think about Christmas break. She goes, with this job, are you going to see your child?
Mm.
I said, now we're juggling him at the daycares. Me and other social workers are like, ended up using the same daycare. Like, hey, girl, could you get my kid by 5 o'clock? Because I'm way out somewhere else with a client. I'm taking me about an hour in traffic to get back. We're over here like going to the same daycare providers and sitting in the car because we don't want to get charged after 5 p.m. hours and stuff like that. And so it was like, okay, I'm like, okay, now I got my own child, and we're not supposed to carry our kids to see our clients. A couple of times I had to have my baby on my hip to go check on my clients because we have to see them one time a month. And my caseload was this high. And I got by the end of my time there, I had like half my cases majority were teenagers. And one of my supervisors was like, you have too many teenagers on your your caseload. I said, yeah, they're running away, they're AWOLing, I don't know where they're at. I'm calling. But we put them in a group home somewhere, they leave the group home. We'll send them to a relative, they run away from their relative, they're out in the streets. It's like by the time I catch up with them, they're like, yeah, I was in an empty house. Well, how are you
Mhm.
surviving? Oh, I was one kid said he was on the front with Home Depot, those working stand in front of Home Depot.
Oh,
Said
yes.
he was doing that. Like, well, you could have been in high school. You're supposed to be in school, and why you leave your group home? Because I didn't like what they was doing. One group home, he said they were the LGBTQ community or something like that, and he didn't feel comfortable. And I said, okay, well, you gotta call. We maybe could have found you another placement, possibly, but this is not saying. But by the time life hits them, they finally call a social worker, like, can you help me? Yeah, your family been looking for you. I've had to call LAPD, LA County Sheriff's, like missing child report,
Oh, my
tell the judge,
goodness.
you know what I mean? And that's just one case. They come to me and says, at the time I was Mrs. Kennebrew, would you like to work from home? And this is before, this And I said, they said, we're offering a new program, the county's offering, that social workers can be mobile workers, where you will have pods of community. And you could just, not necessarily be in the office. You could be at the LAPD station. You could be at a library, be more emerging in the community versus coming to this building. So I took that to my husband and I said, what do you think they're offering? And they said, they don't go to everybody. They just like how I work. They like my work ethic. They said, they don't come to everybody. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We see how you work, Aisha. You get here, you about that business, because there be social workers in there fighting. There was another office I heard, that a county office, they was having a shared desk and the social workers are fussing with each other. It was a lot of social work drama and cliques and gossip.
They ain't having enough desks for people.
At some of the sites, a building. And I'm going like, I'm a graduate of college. I am a married woman now with kids. This type of fussing in this office, I'm not, girl, we got bills to pay. Like, y'all don't like me, go to lunch with each other. I'm not gonna, they're dragging themselves back in from lunch and eating, spending money on fancy meals. And I'm over here, Friday is my day I can eat a meal because it was expensive. And so, and besides me bringing my lunch to work. And anyway, I had to say, this is some mess, boy. And by the time I go on a vacation, I said, I'm taking me a vacation, taking a week, using my days. My baby now about to be 3. I'm giving him a little birthday party, and he's born in the summer. That supervisor came to me and said, if this court report is not in by the time you leave here today, you can kiss your vacation goodbye. And I had already put it, girl, that's how the supervisor's talking to you. I already put in my request. Who's gonna cover your cases? I don't know. I don't. The Lord at this point, I don't pray over them people while I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At this point, but I'm like nervous because I do need a job when I come back. And so, and the benefits and everything we were getting. So I take my little vacation, have my birthday party for my little boy, and we had a big train little party for him. And I get back to work and I just said, God, I got to make a decision. And I had already gone back to school, my master's program with Mount St. Mary's, a dual credential. And it was a weekend program. So I was working as a social worker and working on my master's in program, which it was a Master of Science in Education and the California credentialing. But it was a weekend program. Then the courses got to, I had to come one day in the week. Then it got to the point where, you have to be a student teacher now and take off from your job and work in a classroom for one semester and be So I tell and I had already passed all the state exams. I had passed before me getting the social work job, believe it or not. Because I was like, I'll just do subbing. That'll always be a little extra money maybe on the side. At that time in California, they were not hiring subs if you didn't have a credential. And I'm going, huh? When I'm at Bank of America, I'm going, the man told me this. And he said, well, there's some classes you can take because we're looking, it's got to be highly, what do we call it? They were saying the highly qualified educator that was under the No Child Left Behind Act. And so even for a sub right now, you have to have a credential. And so this person, while I was working for Bank of America, had mailed me all these resources, free course to pass the California TPA assessment. And again, that math was biting me. It had niched at me again to pass the California teacher assessment. For multiple subjects, you have to pass math and science. You have to pass English language arts, social studies, the PE, right? You're getting a multiple subject credential, not the single subject. And so I had passed all of those exams before getting into the children of the LA County Department of Social Work Department. So now that I'm in there, it's like, oh, what do I do? Matter of fact, I went to one of my California assessments, pregnant. It was my second round with the math and science. Pregnant with the one who was a toddler. Anyway, I was pregnant with that little guy sneaking food in because you can't bring food, girl. They real strict. And anyway, and they take the labels off your water bottles, everything. But I had passed all those exams because even to get into the credentialing program, a lot of the Cal States and other colleges said, you have to have all the California assessment exams taken, the TPA. You got to have all those exams taken before you can even enroll. So I'm like, how do I get out of this department? These are the barriers I had to cross. And so fortunately, I had all of the exams passed when I got into the Department of Children and Family Services. And so now this gave me some options, I guess. So when I'm looking at courses to go back to school, because I said, do I go back to get my LCSW? Because I want to work in that hospital. I want to be the hardcore social worker, right? I don't want to just be the fluffy therapist, blah, 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 your court order to do therapy. I hope I'm not taking, I'm trying to give a summary of the Mega Math, how I came up with the Mega Math Bootcamp. How does the academic convenience store thrive in this day and age, right? Because I got to pull from my experience, and there's got to be a passion why I'm who I am as an educator, and how I became this. And why do I stay? And how do I stay? What are we looking at now? And so that being said, I had to meet that math, I don't want to call him the math devil, but the math mathematician gods, I guess, they're meeting me in my face again. So to pass all those state exams was work. The math and science I took twice. You get to the testing site, the lines wrapped around the corner. People are getting kicked out of their jobs because they have the country is saying no child left behind. And you're in here on an emergency credential. And they're like looking at who's entering the space. People that cannot really, their math is not that strong, or their English language arts is not that strong. We've got folks that can't write a full sentence, but you're teaching an English class under emergency credential because you don't have enough people in the space. The highly qualified educator became in California, I believe, has always led the country for years in their state testing and all that at one time. We are now, that's kind of flip-flopped, but as far as becoming an educator in the state, they say that California and New York have the most rigorous requirements. And so being born and raised in California, I just thought it was the norm. Look at what I'm going through just to get into Cal Poly. Look at what I'm going through to get out of high school. Look at what I'm going through, and the math meeting me in my face again. So thank you to LA Unified, whoever that person was, mailed me all the materials, sent me to the free classes. I would go on Saturdays, just take these free classes to pass these exams. And so by the time I become a social worker, those exams were done. Because I was also being told, again, some of the colleges won't accept you unless they're passed. So there's no sense in applying. You know what I mean? If I didn't have those exams passed. So I had those passed. Now I'm at the point where I've got a toddler myself, a 3-year-old, and my former husband's born and raised in LA. He coming to meet me on such and such a street, talking about this is a gang. Do you know where you're at? This is a gang infested environment. You got our toddler out here in the rain. You asked me to come meet you at 8 o'clock at night because this little boy is ran off, and the judge is telling me to keep this boy from the rolling crib or some kind of gang in LA. How,
oh
Judge?
my.
Yeah, that's on my court report. And I got his sibling. I'm thinking to myself, I'll keep him from the rolling 60s or whoever he's hanging out with. I'm gonna stand out here with a shield, escort him to and from school. And so, so my strategy for him is I put him in a placement down in Long Beach, out of the area. How about that? Because he's giving his grandma and aunties or whoever watching him a hard time. He ain't listening. Okay, so because the mother had passed away, left 4 children, and the father, he was kind of like a transit. He was kind of living on the street, but in jail sometime and out of jail. It was hard to kill with the dad when you got 4 children here, giving their family a hard time. You see, so now I've got the little boy trickling into this because at that time they said they try to keep the siblings together, so giving them the same social worker. So now the family's out there with him, and they don't know what to do. He running off and hanging out with some folks, and all down the street with some scooters and stuff. He may think he's his big buddies, but they're really gangs members, I guess. And so, anyway, so my mom says, listen, Aisha, all money's not good money. I get to my desk, I get a call from HR. Hi, Aisha, this is such and such. We're here to talk about your raise. I'm like, I call my husband. They talk about a raise. They talk about what we go, you know what I'm saying? And he said, that's how they're gonna keep you stuck. He said, that's how they keep you. That's how they keep you. So I'm like, man, I'm looking at how much entry level teachers out here are making. You know, I'm making a little bit more than a bit more than that. I'm gonna go back and you look like your job. You talk about leave, but your job is looking little. Your job's been shaky. You sometimes got a job, sometimes you don't. So it's like, you know what I mean? And here we got this our baby. So it was a fork in the road. Okay, then go back to school and get the LCSW. Go back, and I'm like, nah, I don't like what I saw on that end either. You know what I'm saying? It ain't what I thought it was. And so I just didn't want to be somebody's, I just couldn't, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it with my heart. If you need the camera, I'm gonna be in here really trying to help and save some lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm seeing that you can't really, they out here making money off of these kids and these families. And they done gave my child who I done sent to Long Beach and put medicine on them. And I'm saying, wait a minute, you can't just give my client medicine. They said, oh no, you put them in the group home. All they do is back something to the judge, girl. And boom, my client's on medicine. He's back to acting out. He's gained a bunch of weight. He's not with that crew he was hanging with or whatever he was doing, but he done found some trouble. You see what I'm saying? He done found a way to, he was okay for about a month. Now the medicine made him hungry and, you know, he's eating all the, you know, and, but he's, after a month or two, he got to find some folks to run with, I guess, you know? So, that hurt my heart. You know what I mean? And, you know, at least in the form of social worker, so we know our client is on medication. And so we know how to handle that part of things. These judges are making money, people are getting kickbacks, and my brain could not take that. You know, especially my heart couldn't take it, I guess. And especially when I'm seeing what's happening to the African American community. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, we're drowning here. We're drowning here. You know, now I've had his sister. Now this boy, I got to go run to probation department. I got to run to the Compton courthouse. I got to go. You know, he wasn't his energy wasn't bad. I mean, it was those kids missed their parents. The mother passed away, the dad, they love. And one girl said, she goes, I will live on the streets of my dad before ever going to another foster home. And they was running away. And I would put her with her sister, and the sister would convince her to run away from this lady and talk back to this lady. And I'm going, the lady is trying to help y'all too, you know. And I'm just, you know, and I got my own toddler here. And I'm just like, okay, God. Let this go. You know, I just have to let this go. Because I wear my heart on my sleeve. And it's to the point where how can you really, for that many people? I'm a human being myself, and I'm so conservative with families that is just okay. You know, I'm in these meetings and parents are thanking me for being there. Sometimes I'm the only voice of reason one time for this family that was trying to take all their kids and separate myself. And here I am. I was at the time pregnant. I said, no, ma'am. I said, I don't think that it's right to have the grandmother they remove him. If the raid happened, he had marijuana for sale, and this is before it became legal. Why are you gonna put all these children out? They had nothing to do with this from their family. Everybody should stay in the home. And they said, well, the supervisors all walk out and they did what I asked when we were having these team decision-making meetings. And they actually did, they went with my recommendation. And that's where my heart, and I walk out because I had another case and meeting to go to. I walk out and that family was about like doing this to me, thanking me for being there, thanking me. Even the man that was the father who had the drugs for the marijuana for sale. It wasn't heavy drugs. You know, remove him. He's got to get some resources or other ways of making money. You know what I'm saying? And but let the children and everybody be in the home, and the mother and the grandmother, they all had children. So you know what I mean? But to move all these kids out, finding placements, no, I don't think that's wise at all. They've already had a raid over the weekend because they were living, you know, one of the project housing. Come on now. Was that even necessary to raid, you know, for marijuana? Now it's legal, right? So, or California being one of the first states to legalize it. So anyway, so that being said, I'm in the education space. I had to let that social work job go. Instead of me working under another uh what do you call it? Leaving for a semester to work as a student teacher in a classroom setting, which my college, Mount St. Mary's, is going to assign me. They find the schools and stuff for you. We cannot afford that. I just couldn't afford it. That's what 3 months of no pay and bills and rent and da 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 with toddler diapers and wipes and daycare for him, and was costing us $700 a month to put him in a decent place. That was another story, but with our first child. But we finally had him in a nice place, but it was costing us a hefty coin for that location. And so we just couldn't afford it for me to be. So there is an opportunity to work with the archdiocese. And if they said, if you could find a job that will take you, you're already in your classes, and find a full-time teaching job, then you'll do your understudy that way. And they'll come out and observe you and do all that. I said, okay, have my resume, girl, I'm everywhere. And the archdiocese I got hired, told the county, here's my 2 weeks. Had to renege on that because that first job decided to take on another teacher right the last minute. So I told the job, never mind. I get a call from Dr. Callie. She goes, I have your resume here. I would love to bring you on, except I don't know to put you in 4th or 5th grade. She goes, I'm going to pray about this. This is a Catholic school environment. I said, okay, I'm getting my hair done. She calls me, with your background, this is a South LA school, South LA Archdiocese school, right next door to a public school, right? She goes, I've been in prayer, and I believe with your background and your experience and your degree in psychology, I feel like the 5th grade will be more fit for you than my other candidate here. And I said, sure. She goes, do you want the job? I said, yes, I'll take the job. And had to go back to the county, say, listen, I'm leaving. And that began my career, 2007, 2008 school year. At the Archdiocese, I stayed for 6 years. Again, the math bug came up because I'm teaching 5th grade math, some fractions, my first year. And I'm nervous. I'm like, I know my math background was challenging in school, elementary school and middle school and high school. And I got to teach these kids decimals and fractions as a 5th grader. And there's a reason why I didn't get my single subject English. I was like, or single subject, because I'm thinking dollar. I'm thinking, how am I get a job? What if there's 50 English teachers, you're trying to find a job. So at least the multiple subject, and it has. I have worked in the science space. I have worked in the math space. God has kept me, and the opportunities. It's not been easy. My education career has been like this, but I will say it's been flexible. I will say that I'm I would guess, I'm just guessing, I could be a rarity as far as the background of experience that I've had, been able to, opportunities that I've gained. And a lot of that has been because I entered the education space. So they lay you off. All those people that stay around 20, 25 years in a classroom, I wasn't seeing that. If they can get you out before they have to pay you, they'd rather have the newbies. I ended up staying at the Archdiocese school for 6 years, under a very minimal salary. The reason I stayed that amount of time, by the time I got my credential, by the time I got my master's, there was a hiring freeze of the districts. They weren't hiring anyone. And so I just stayed, and I got my clear credential. My advisors at Mount St. I ended up doing like 4 or 5 years total at Mount St. Mary's, because my advisor said, well, do you want to go back and get your special ed? They're looking for special ed credentials. And I just thought about it, but I thought we had to do so much for special ed as a general ed teacher. And I didn't feel like that was my space, the special ed department. We're dealing with a lot of, as a California educator, we have to modify our lessons for the special needs students. We have to modify our lessons for for our English language learner students. And so we're dealing with a little, especially at a private school, or you don't have all these resources and a room for this child and a room for that child. We're the one room schoolhouse anyway. I had 30 students my first year. And it was rough. I mean, that behavior was rough. It was a challenging transition because I had my social work job, my Bank of America job. I just get up and go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? I get up and go to lunch. I can take me a little break and eat me a little snack. You know what I'm saying? There's a break room over here. There's some refrigerators. We got a machine. I go buy me some snacks, at the machine or whatever. This in a room with 30 people, they're kids, but there's still 30 people, human beings, like loud, talking, shoving, all kind of stuff is going on. And I got to teach some lessons. And I'm like, that was the adjustment process my first year. It took I had to, on Friday, let me go to the corner, my 30-minute lunch. I had to find a local store. Where's your Coca-Cola? You have any? You can't drink, Coca-Cola became my Friday friend. Coffee in the morning. I had to have my coffee in the morning, like to function. Like I was like, oh, you made it that. This is not even what is this? This can't be normal. This can't be functional.
Yeah.
How can a person function? I'm the only adult in this thing. These are human beings, but you're not, on a regular job, my office job. Hey girl, yeah, yep. Girl, that little boy, I got him on it. Oh my God, you can't have that kind of conversation. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that culture of the classroom culture, my first year, that adjustment process was challenging. So I had to find my identity in retrospect, who I was as a teacher, who I am. I believe it's a calling to be a teacher. One of my first assignments in my grad school courses, why are you here? You know what I mean? And I had to say it was a calling for me. I believe it is a calling. I may have been called to the space, those of us, especially in the African American community, that believe in a higher power. We all know what that means, when you're called for something.
So with the academic convenience store, is it a school? Are you teaching? What is the academic convenience store?
The academic convenience store was I came up with it came to me over the pandemic. And I ended up getting some vendor, I got a business coach, ran into a guy, pay me $100. I can get you into I can teach you the business world. Tomorrow, so you bought this camera, you bought this. It was in a box. Open it and have a YouTube tomorrow. When my business coach was not playing. Have a YouTube tomorrow. I said, but I'm waiting for my kids to put this together for me, my sons. I come home there with their dad on that day of the week. You know what? Let me figure this out. Take it out the box and figure this out, right? So I got invested in some business coaching during the pandemic. And so that was my first investment in how to really run. Mind you, 2017, 2016, I got the DBA. I don't know, okay, now what, right? So that the academic convenience store title came to me when I saw the number 711. And I'm like, that's 7-Eleven. Oh my God, the academic convenience store. I have a jingle. I grew up in the music industry. I'm waiting for it to get produced. I met some people in the pandemic. The guy, he works at Kanye West. He wanted $1,000 to produce my song. But that being said, my first year, my first part of my master's project, I had to come up with the thesis, or they called it a project, because I have a Master of Science in Education. Girl, there's a piano in that room. Now, the class I took over at my first classroom year was a Black lady, African-American lady, Miss, oh my God, she was at the school for 30 years, 35 years. What's her name? Anyway, that's the class I took over. And they said, if you were in the 5th grade, you were in the choir. And Miss Thompson, what is her name? Now I can't think of it. But yeah, she was, and I found out that when I got a tour of the school, she was in there. And she actually consulted with the principal at the time to put me in there. I didn't know this until years later. And when I got there, she said, you can have everything in this room. It all belongs to you. All this stuff, all these materials, all the resources, it's yours.
Nice.
Now the piano, they wouldn't move it. Now I'm in classes. I need to have my center here. I need to have this is going to be my reading area. I'm a small group, I'm visualizing. I'm in my courses. The piano's in the way. The principal said, no, I'm not moving the piano. It has the best tuning. That's the piano that stays in this room. It gets to be April, and it's in the school year, and these kids are about to throw rocks at me if I teach them about some fractions, and they can't understand nothing I'm talking about. Somebody to shove someone, and math is okay. They about to beat me up in here. I go I go to the piano. Ding, 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 ding. Is there a number greater than one that can go into both numbers evenly? I grew up in the music industry, so my stepdad had us all by ear. He refused to he wasn't about, I was trying to learn the notes in one of my classes. He taught us music by ear. So I go to the piano, and the piano saved the day. And that became my master's thesis. So I have several songs that I made for students at that time, that my own songs, to help them process the steps. I had to do research on music and math and the brain. Oh, now I'm back to the hardcore stuff of the brain, right? And so there's a lot of research on how music just in general affects the body, the brain, and newborn, and da da da. And so that became my master's thesis. That actually the next year I'm there. Where's the song, Miss Owens? My third year, the fourth year, I've got kids going to middle school. That song, Miss Owens, I sing it to myself, and it helped me solve some problems. And they became a thing where, can you make a song for this, Miss Owens? I said, well, Miss Kenny at the time, I said, listen, if I was out here making songs, do you think I would be at this school? If I was out here, you know what I mean? You think I'd be working as a teacher? So don't tell me to make another song. Anyway, but songs were coming to me. I would stay after school. The information would come, how the jingles would come. And so my master's thesis is on math and music, and what that, and so I've got original songs. And so that being said, I stayed there for 6 years through the hiring freezes. That principal left. Now I'm in the real world of I ended up at another archdiocese school on the other side of town that year, because I just had to make a decision. Like, I just have to go. I don't know what I'm about to do. I had to tell my husband at the time, I've got to get out of here. It's been 6 years. I've got a Master of Science in Education. I have a California clear now, because the clear process is different than the preliminary. We are on our second baby. My youngest child, he was born, I told him the other day, all he knows is me being a teacher. My other one, he was a toddler. I was a social worker, and my stillborn baby, I was working for Bank of America, corporate offices. So you are my child that was moving, the kids looking at, hello, can someone come cover my class? I have to use the restroom, kind of thing. That being said, the academic convenience store emerges in the pandemic. I had a partnership with Urban Scholar Academy. Shout out to Ms. Coleman, who left the education space and been in this as a nonprofit for years. Left LA Unified way before I did. Left, the district. Life is life, and end up the pandemic. I'm divorced at this point. I had to go through my first year at LA Unified, going through a divorce. That was tough. But that being said, they laid a bunch of us off. If you're not tenure, we got laid off that year. Then I ended up in the charter school space a little bit. And that scene in LA was charter schools popping up everywhere. And I'm not a huge fan of them for various reasons. I could talk about that another day. We end up in a space, and right before the pandemic, LA Unified goes on a 3-week strike, not necessarily for money. And my kids went through LA Unified magnet schools, and they're like, hey, it's not even about the money at this point. We're like tired of, we can't get a nurse. We can't get recess people no more, because the charter school situation has basically siphoning public dollars out to these places. Then there was a law that came out, people were not voting, that says if a public school has space, they're allowed to enter the campus. So a principal will come back, and there's a half of their building has been already sold out or signed up to the district. You get an LA Unified charter, there's county charters, there's state charters. So it was getting real, the politics, and I think it has a lot to do with the G word, the gentrification, because you have to understand that real estate and school results go hand in hand. The real estate, and a lot of African Americans stayed in LA County after the 60s. They stayed in LA and they lived in those houses, and they raised their families, and they got them for a low price back then, but they never moved. So they're coming back to the inner city and seeing all these schools performing well, and scores are going. They got strong API scores, and these are Black people. These are African Americans. And so I think that was a lot of the politics. I'm not realizing how much politics in the space I was dealing with. So the academic convenience store is a workshop. I'm a boot camp person. I'm not the tutoring person. Do I enter as a tutoring space? So I started the Mega Math Bootcamp during the pandemic, I want to say, and partnered with LA County Parks and Rec as a vendor and had a few people come on there, and then partnered with Urban Scholar Academy. So I got some partnerships, became doing a little bit of content creating. I'm working on getting back into the space a couple years ago. I've also evolved my investments, investing in private consultants that are in the space, spending thousands of dollars that I didn't really have on credit to really learn how to stay in this, how to now the social media. And that was my first business coach, is what he said: you got to get on social media, Aisha, you're not going to survive. And this is the past. I don't do Facebook. It's the junk. It's like someone's birthday. You're on the scrolling, because if you don't get into he had to, I'm in my 40s. So it's like, I saw but I come in from a tech school, Cal Poly, we're always on the verge of technology, right? We had to graduate. Every course had to somehow embed, and it was a hands-on school, embed technology into our courses, whether it was English, whether it was art. So I'm coming from a technology school background. So I'm like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Fine. I'm on the Instagram now. But I said, if I enter the space and I'm seeing all I see is some women and their bodies out, and they got their bathing suit on, and they just out here, I'm like, Instagram look like it's for the models, for the bodies or something. And he's like, but that don't have to be you. I said, it can't. I'm an educator. I sure enough can't be out there like that, because our California credential says, they can come after our credential for some mess like that. Like, you know what I mean? So I said, how am I going to enter the space? Well, in the Black Biz LA, shout out to Black Biz LA. There are some people in there. She's like, look, I do logo. I'm a chef, but I do logos. So but I charge $50. So she hit me up with some logos. I said, ooh, I don't, it wasn't, some said a door. And that's when she designed my logo, the door. I said, that's hitting me right there. But a picture of a school and a bell, I said, it was too cheesy looking. Not that she wasn't good at what she was doing. It just, for me, I was like, it wasn't hitting me. But when she designed my door and my color scheme with the black and I said, because she had it on white background, I said, no, I think the black. And that was my logo, the door, the Mega Math Bootcamps. Those are my workshop spaces. It's really 6 sessions. I've kind of changed it over time. The 6 Saturdays, some of the families weren't, they want to, by the time you get to the 4th or 5th Saturday, people are not, they want to go to a birthday party. There's something that's coming up to where they're not able to make the session. So I did kind of tweak it a little bit to where, let's do, like, instead of doing the 90 minutes, we'll do like 60-minute sessions, maybe twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, or, so the theme of the academic convenience store is that we getting information in bite-sized pieces.
Nice.
So that's my theme, that that if we could laser focus on just one content area, I feel like the kids will grasp it. So if you join the fractions boot camp, we're just going to focus on maybe just the foundational understanding of a fraction, and the simplifying and the reducing of a number and the greatest common factor. If you come to my decimals workshop, well, we're looking at the place value, but we're not going to look at the ones, tens, the whole numbers. I take my students to the other side of that decimal point, because guess what? Our students are not seeing that there's a decimal until 4th or 5th grade, or they'll see it under money, but they're not seeing it in the way that the school's asking them to identify. And they say, I can't do fraction. What is this here? Oh, yes, you can. So we introduce them that decimal point, because we operate a numbers and base 10 system, our math system here in the United States. And most of the world operates in that base 10, you see. And so if we can understand that and master that at a younger age, or you come to the boot camp and I'm laser focusing in on just that piece, so that when you see that, if you're a 3rd grader and you come to my camp, or you're a 4th grader and you come to my camp, you're going to see that place value chart. I don't know if you can see it on the camera here. I showed them the first day, whether you're 3rd, 4th, or 5th grader, there's your decimal point. I'm going to show that once. I'm going to show them that decimal point early on. And even if you go into some of my earlier YouTube videos, I start off with the numbers in base 10, because that's usually the beginning of the school year math standard. And so that's the academic convenience store. Wonderful Writers World. I wanted to bring in the writing portion, because a lot of our kids are struggling with that, writing the stamina. We have a lot of our kids on the texting, they'll say, oh, let LOL, you're writing a formal essay, you're giving me LOL, or TMI, all this messaging stuff. What does that mean? Because you may get an English teacher that says, hey, look, I had one time in college. I don't want to see another contraction on your essay. Like, don't. And, you have to do not. And it is. And I'm like, well, it's out of high school where we can do contraction. So you don't know what kind of teacher you may get. You see, and so that is the Wonderful Writers Workshop, where we take students an opportunity to, and these can be custom made, the workshops, the Readers Roundtable. I was really promoting that last summer. If you go into my Instagram and my some of my YouTube, I'm promoting the Readers Roundtable, because the stamina of just reading a book. Now, the Readers Roundtable can be different things. Readers Roundtable can be, we're just going to do a novel study and unpack information. Or the Readers Roundtable can be, no, I'm going to teach you annotating skills, how to be a close reader, extracting information, because guess what? That annotating skill can take you through math. It can take, I just told my 5th graders this year, can take you through math. It can take you through science. It can take you to social studies. You become a learner. It gives you a tool to extract information. That's what an active learner is, and a close reader is doing. And so the Readers Roundtable can be where I can start off. Readers Roundtable is annotating. The next workshop is or we could run 2 simultaneously. Or one is a novel study, one is, I want to really get that close reading, and how can my child construct a detailed constructed response? Because that, when we go to that state testing, our students, they don't have the, in the TikTok age, kids don't have the stamina anymore. People, I feel like, are not, you pick up a phone and you're scrolling all day, not realizing this is how they're getting us our money. This ad, it's, the psychology behind that is real. And it's sad, because it's like, we need folks getting outdoors again and picking up a pencil again, or writing things out again. That's my philosophy. How do we get our kids back to the basic foundations in this new day and age? How do we flex model it so where, yes, we're going to use the digital components, but we also know how to pick up a pencil if I need to.
Yeah, definitely need both. You definitely need both, because technology is technology, and it's always going to be unpredictable. So you got to be able to maneuver your way around.
And it's very critical.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
well,
Go ahead. I was going to say it's very
those are
critical
all
in
the
this day and
services.
age. I'm sorry. I was just going to say it's very critical in this day and age that we bring this skill to the communities, and particularly African American communities, because what is happening in the politics? Are we going to have a group of people that cannot read those ancient materials, that old documents. We need people back in there saying, no, this country was started. This was the vision for this country. This is what democracy is. Where are those politicians at? The emerging politicians, that are really going to get in there and look at the meat of things and the heart of things, and so the academic convenience store brand, I have an EIN number now. So as I bring people on to hire under me, do they have a heart of service? And that's where I had to sit with myself as a business owner and as a woman and as an African American, where does the academic convenience store fall in the marketplace?
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate the services that you're providing. It's awesome that, your journey has led you to academics in general and making sure that the younger generation is equipped with what you need, or what they need to succeed. Before I let you go, can you give parents, with all of, your social service background, with all of your academic background, teaching background, 3 things that you would tell parents just like to focus on, I guess to ensure that their child is grown in the right direction?
3 things to tell parents.
Yes.
Good question. Number 1, time with your children. The time. Number 2, foundational skills. Do your child have the basic foundational skills, whether that's in the reading, in the math, the science, as far as the academics are concerned? Okay. So I say time with your child, because that's challenging in this day and age with parents having to work, but as a parent, I as they get older, it gets more challenging. But the time with your child, because every child is different. So where are they at in their space? Number 2, the basic foundational skills. Where are your child with the basic foundational skills? And that can look different for each child, because if they're a high school child, the basics might be, well, he did well in Algebra 1. You know what I mean? So the basics could look different depending on what they're studying. So it's about basic foundational skills in all academic areas. And number 3, where does a child, can the child follow directions? Where do you see your child in the space of society that we're living in now? And how can you direct them to be who they are, what they're capable of, and where do they find themselves in the space? Because what I believe we need to do in this day and age is developing the whole person. That I come from the back generation where they were that college degree, that 4-year college. We're looking at what we're finding. I had to turn on the news and see the kids at UCLA, and all around. I guess they were doing this all around the country, just fighting and camping out for whatever reason. Where do you find your child in the space? What are their gifts and talents that you can build, and then they could capitalize on that, and have multiple skills and multiple resources, I think is important for this day and age. So tap into your child's ability. I'm also an assessor. I became a California assessor for new teachers. I just finished my 2nd year coaching at a local Cal State in the new teacher program. I got an offer to work as a national board assessor for the summer. I'll be doing that, some part-time work with that. And so because I've had some grace and opportunities, it has allowed me to be flexible in the education space, to where had I been someone that's 25 years in one school, in one campus, in one district, they do make it challenging for us, because you don't get tenure if you move to another district and all this stuff. You got to start your tenure, have to start over, blah, blah, blah. But in this day and age, capitalize on your child's or tap into your child's special gift? And how can we use the academics to flourish that so that they can have access to multiple resources and they can utilize their gift and talent in a variety of ways? So number 3, tapping into your child's gifts.
Nice. Nice. Well, parents, make sure you understand that support is available. Check out Miss Aisha's academic convenience store. Tap into her resources, allow her to assist you with things that you may need help with, that you may be lacking in your foundation. Let her help you build that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for all that you do, Miss Aisha. Do appreciate your service by all means. And
Thanks for
parents,
having me.
homeschool your kids. Of course.